There's riding before your first crash, and there's riding after. The difference isn't just physical, it's mental, emotional, practical. You start to see the things you missed, the decisions you brushed off, the warnings you ignored because I'll be fine. Ask any rider who's gone down and they'll tell you it changes you. And not just because of the pain, the damage, or the paperwork. It's because there's a whole world of lessons that nobody teaches until you find yourself sliding across the pavement or staring at your broken bike, wondering what happens next. So this isn't about fear, it's about preparation. These are the things you only learn after your first crash. The cold, inconvenient truths that could save you pain, money, or even your life if you learn them before you hit the ground. Let's talk about what really happens. Number 1. The gear you wear is either worthless or priceless. Everyone talks about gear, jackets, gloves, helmets, boots. It's all part of the look. But you don't really understand its value until you hit the pavement and watch it get shredded while your skin stays intact. Or worse, you realize your motorcycle jacket was just a fashion piece with no real protection, and now you got road rash deep enough to see your heartbeat. After a crash, you'll learn fast. Gear doesn't just have to look good, it has to work. You'll discover that cheap gloves disintegrate, not armored jeans don't slide, they tear instantly. That lightweight mesh jacket that felt perfect on hot days, it melts on contact with asphalt. And if your helmet hits the ground, even lightly, it's done. That $500 lid did its job, but now it needs replacing. You'll also learn about fit. A jacket with armor that shifts out of place during a crash is as good as no armor at all. Loose gloves come off. Boots without ankle support twist when your bike lands on your leg. The rule after your first crash: buy gear like you're planning to fall, not hoping you won't. Because once you go down, you'll either be picking up your gear and saying, "Thank God I was wearing this," or picking gravel out of your skin wondering why you cheaped out. Number 2, you don't think straight right after a crash, and that's when you make expensive mistakes. The moment you go down, your brain floods with adrenaline. You pop up, if you're lucky, and the first thing you feel is shock. Not pain, not fear, just confusion. You're trying to process what happened. Check your body, check your bike, check your surroundings. And it's exactly in that chaos that most riders make some of their worst decisions. Maybe you jump back on the bike even though you're concussed. Maybe you pick it up and ride it home without realizing the forks are bent or the brakes are leaking. Or maybe you wave off help and say, "I'm fine," and leave the scene without documenting anything, calling the cops, or even getting the other driver's info. That moment is a trap because everything feels fine when you're jacked up on adrenaline. Pain, damage, and even legal problems come creeping in hours or days later. What you learn after your first crash is this: slow down, sit down, breathe. Don't rush to move your bike. Don't trust your instincts just yet. They're in fight or flight mode. Check your body again. Look for leaks, broken parts, or missing gear. Call someone, get documentation, take photos, get witness info, even if it wasn't a big deal. Because once that adrenaline wears off, pain sets in, or the legal drama starts, you'll wish you'd have thought clearer at the scene. Number 3, insurance isn't there to help you. It's there to pay the least amount legally possible. Before your first crash, you think insurance is your safety net. You pay the premiums, keep your policy clean, maybe even go with a motorcycle-friendly company. But the second you file a claim, you learn the hard truth. Insurance isn't your buddy, it's a business, and its job is to keep its money, not give you peace of mind. They'll sound all sympathetic on the phone, they'll say all the right things, but behind the scenes, they're calculating how to pay the absolute minimum. If they can total your bike instead of repairing it, they will. If they can depreciate your gear, your mods, your helmet, even if it's brand new, they'll do it. If another driver causes a crash, don't expect their insurer to play fair either. They'll delay, deny, downplay. They'll try to get you to admit fault, twist your words, or rush you into a lowball settlement. And if you don't have documentation, photos, witness info, a police report, you're walking into that fight with your hands tied. You'll also learn real quick, your policy coverage matters. If you didn't add coverage for aftermarket parts, they're not covered. If you didn't get medical payments or uninsured motorist coverage, too bad. The rule after your first crash: treat insurance like an opponent, not a helper. Document everything. Don't sign anything without reading it. And don't be afraid to push back or lawyer up if things start getting shady. Number 4. The injuries you don't feel right away are often the ones that haunt you. After a crash, you expect pain. You brace for broken bones, bruises, or maybe even a bit of road rash. But what catches most riders off guard is what you don't feel until days or weeks later. Adrenaline masks pain. In the moment, you might feel fine, maybe just a sore wrist or a stiff shoulder. See you ride home, ice it, and move on. Then your back starts aching every time you sit down. Your neck stiffens up. Your hands go numb at night. Suddenly, you realize the crash didn't just knock you over. It knocked something loose that won't fix itself. Soft tissue damage, nerve compression, joint misalignment. These are the injuries that don't show up in x-rays, don't bleed, and don't scream for attention. But they linger. They flare up. And if you ignore them early, they can become permanent problems that affect your riding, your sleep, your work, your life. Even low-speed crashes can do it. A 20-mile-an-hour slide can tweak your spine just enough to cause chronic pain. A jammed thumb can turn into tendonitis. A minor impact can start a chain reaction your body tries to shake off, but never fully does. The rule: get checked, even if you feel fine. Especially if you don't. Chiropractors, physical therapists, even a basic exam can catch things early, because the pain that doesn't show up right away, that's the pain that stays. Number 5. Just because the bike is fixable doesn't mean it's worth fixing. First instinct after a crash is simple. Can it be fixed? You look at the bent levers, the scraped fairings, they be a cracked mirror or a busted light. Nothing looks catastrophic, so you start ordering parts, calling shops, or filing a claim to get it back on the road. But here's what most riders don't realize until it's too late. A fixable bike isn't always a safe or a smart bike anymore. Once your frame is tweaked, even slightly, it can throw off geometry, handling, and alignment in ways you won't notice until you're deep into a turn. Forks can look straight, but be twisted. Wheel bearings might feel smooth, but be damaged inside. And unless you do a full teardown, there's no way to be sure something critical didn't get compromised. Even beyond safety, there's the financial trap. You might spend more fixing the bike than it's worth, especially if it's been repaired with cheap aftermarket parts or without proper alignment checks. Then you go to sell it and find out it's got a branded title, or no one wants it because of the crash history. The smarter move: pause, assess the real condition, get a second opinion, and be honest with yourself. Are you fixing a solid machine or chasing the sunk cost to something that's already done? The emotional urge to bring it back is strong. Sometimes the best decision is to walk away before the second crash is the one you built yourself. Number 6. Getting back on the bike isn't just physical, it's psychological warfare. Once the bones heal, the bruises fade, and the bike is, maybe, repaired. Most riders ask themselves the same question: am I ready to ride again? And unless you've been there, it's easy to assume that if your body's good, you're good. But the truth? The mental part hits harder than the pavement ever did. Your confidence doesn't bounce back with your ligaments. The first time you throw a leg over in a bike post-crash, your hands might shake. Every curve feels tighter, every braking zone feels shorter, every intersection looks like a threat. You second-guess your throttle, your body stiffens in corners, and suddenly, riding feels off. Even if the crash wasn't your fault, the fear lingers. You replay it, you imagine it happening again. You see cars differently. You ride slower not because you want to, but because your brain is trying to protect you from something it now sees as dangerous. And this is where a lot of riders quit, not because they can't ride, but because the joy is gone, replaced by hesitation. That's normal. It's not weakness, it's trauma, and it needs time. The rule? Take baby steps. Ride short, ride slow, ride alone if you need to. Don't force it. Let the confidence rebuild gradually. Some riders bounce back fast, others take months. What matters is getting there on your terms. Because if you're scared to ride, you're not just tense, you're vulnerable. And the second crash often comes from the shadow of the first. Number 7, you'll wish you had footage, even if it would have made you look bad. Before your first crash, having a GoPro or a dash cam might seem like a luxury, something for moto vloggers or stunt riders. But after you go down, especially if another vehicle was involved, you quickly realize video is the only truth anyone respects. Police reports are vague, witnesses get it wrong, drivers lie or conveniently forget they cut you off. And if you can't prove what happened, you're at the mercy of someone else's version of the story. That's where having footage becomes more valuable than your helmet, even if the crash was partly your fault. Video shows the how. Maybe the road had oil, maybe the other driver drifted, maybe you did brake too late, but because the car ahead stopped short. Without video, it's your word versus theirs. With video, you control the narrative. And it's not just about insurance or police. Video helps you learn. You see the moment your line was off, the second you looked away, the gap you misjudged. It's a brutal teacher, but it's honest. Rule: mount a camera, even a cheap one. Helmet, bars, dash, whatever. Set it and forget it. You don't need to post it. You don't even need to watch it until it matters. And when it does, it could save your license, your wallet, or your name. Because after the crash, the one thing worse than being hurt is being blamed for something you didn't do and having nothing to prove otherwise. Number 8, some riding buddies disappear the moment you crash. Before your first crash, it feels like you got a solid crew. Group rides, gas station laughs, late night texts about bike mods. You think these are your people. But the second you go down, you find out something nobody tells you. Not everyone rides with you for the long haul. Some riding buddies vanish. They don't check in. They don't visit. They don't even ask if you're okay. Why? Sometimes it's guilt. Sometimes they don't want to deal with it. And sometimes they're just not built for being around someone who crashed, because it reminds them they could be next. Others will blame you. You should have seen it coming. You were pushing too hard. They distance themselves, not because you were reckless, because they don't want to admit it could have been them. Some even make it about their trauma. Man, it messed me up seeing you go down. And the worst, some people will use your crash as gossip. They'll spin the story, leave out the context, and suddenly you're the cautionary tale at every group ride. But here's the good news. The ones who do stick around, those are the real ones. They help you load your bike. They show up at the hospital. They check in weeks later, not just to talk bikes, but to ask how you are. The rule: don't measure your crew by who rides fast. Measure them by who shows up when you're not riding at all. Number 9, a helmet can look fine after a crash and still be useless. One of the most dangerous assumptions riders make after a crash is thinking, my helmet looks okay, so it must still be good. No cracks, no deep scratches, visor still works, so they keep riding with it. But here's the truth: every crash rider eventually learns. Damage you can't see is the damage that matters most. Motorcycle helmets are designed to absorb impact by crushing the internal EPS foam liner. It's a one-time use system. Even a relatively light crash, dropping your helmet off the seat onto concrete or hitting the ground at 30 miles an hour, can compress that foam without leaving a mark on the shell. And once that foam is compromised, the helmet won't protect you properly in a second impact. The shell might look flawless, the paint still might shine, but the safety's gone. Manufacturers don't play around with this. If your helmet took an impact, any impact, it should be replaced. That's not a sales pitch. That's physics. And don't count on shops to inspect it properly unless the manufacturer offers a crash replacement program, and some do. Most techs will just tell you what you want to hear or what makes the sale. The rule: if your helmet hits the ground in a crash, retire it. No debates, no exceptions. The next time, it might not be your bike that gets totaled. It might be your skull. Number 10. You'll regret not having photos of your bike before the crash. After a crash, one of the first things insurance will ask is, do you have photos of the bike before the damage? And if you don't, good luck proving what condition it was in, what aftermarket parts were installed, or whether that total loss valuation is total nonsense. You might remember your bike being spotless. You might know you just put on new tires, new bars, or a custom exhaust. But you can't prove it. You're at their mercy. And it's not just about insurance. Photos help when selling the bike later, documenting accident claims, or even contesting fault if the other party tries to say, that dent was already there. The rule you learn too late: take detailed, time-stamped photos of your bike regularly. Full walkarounds, close-ups of expensive parts, odometer readings, even shots of your gear if you've invested real money in it. It sounds paranoid until you're standing in a parking lot filing a claim and realizing the last photo you have of your bike was from a blurry group ride 6 months ago. Pro tip: store photos in the cloud just in case your phone doesn't survive the crash either. It takes 5 minutes, costs you nothing, and the moment something goes wrong, those photos might be the only evidence that keeps you from getting screwed. Number 11. The police report might not match what actually happened. You'd think after a crash, the police report would tell the story clearly. After all, they're trained, right? But one of the hardest lessons riders learn is what ends up on that report can be incomplete, misleading, or flat out wrong. Maybe the officer didn't witness the crash. Maybe the driver got their version in first. Maybe the officer doesn't ride and doesn't understand how motorcycles move or stop. Sometimes small details get skipped. Sometimes assumptions get written in, and suddenly the official report paints you as the problem, even if you weren't. This matters a lot because insurance companies, lawyers, and even courts treat that report like gospel. If you didn't give your side clearly, if you were dazed, injured, or distracted, you might find out days later that key facts were left out or twisted. Once it's filed, it's incredibly hard to correct. The rule: if you're able, make sure your version is heard. Be calm, be clear, and don't guess. If you don't remember something, say so. Ask to review the report. Take your own notes, get witnesses to back you up, and always, always take your own photos and write your own account ASAP. Because once it's in writing, the story isn't just yours anymore, and you'll be shocked how fast it can get away from you. Number 12. You might be held liable even if the other driver was clearly at fault. You'd think that if someone cuts you off, runs a light, or merges into you without looking, it's an open and shut case. They're at fault, you're the victim, done. But after your first crash, you'll quickly learn fault doesn't always mean freedom from liability. Why? Because insurance companies and legal systems don't just look at who caused the crash. They also look at how you were riding when it happened. Were you speeding, lane splitting, even legally, riding without gear? Did you modify your exhaust or remove safety equipment? Even if the driver's 100% at fault, any of those details can be used to reduce your compensation or shift partial blame onto you. It's called comparative negligence in a lot of states, and it means your behavior before the crash absolutely affects the outcome afterward. The scariest part, you might not even know you're being blamed until you get a letter saying your claim's been reduced or denied. The other driver's lawyer might say, you were going too fast to be seen, or you weren't visible in that black gear. The rule: ride like you might have to defend your actions later. Be visible, keep your speed in check, know your local laws, and make sure your bike is legal. Because being right won't matter much if they still make you pay. If you haven't crashed yet, good. Ride smart and stay sharp, but don't wait to learn these lessons the hard way. Prepare now. Check your gear. Know your insurance. Take the photos. Understand the risks before they catch you off guard. And if you have gone down, you already know. You got a scar or a dent or a story that changed how you ride. Share it. Drop it in the comments. Someone else might need that wake-up call before they get theirs. If this helped, hit that like button and subscribe, because this channel doesn't just talk bikes. We talk survival. Ride safe, ride awake, and keep the rubber side down.